The siren screamed to the cold night air, red lights flashing wildly across the gray walls of Stonehill Federal Prison. Guards were shouting from every direction, some running toward the main gate, others bolting up the watchtowers with rifles ready. But inside the chaos, down in the old laundry tunnel, 3 men were crawling through a narrow vent that hadn't been opened in over 30 years. And leading them was a man who had never touched a weapon in his life, Eli Grant. His heart hammered like a drum as he twisted the rusted handle of the vent gate. It gave a sharp creak, louder than he expected. "Keep quiet," hissed Marcus, the bulky ex-boxer behind him. Eli didn't reply. His mind was too busy counting seconds. They had exactly 2 minutes before the guards discovered the hole they'd left under the cell block. The cold wind outside hit his face first. Freedom, real freedom. But then came the sound he feared most, a guard yelling. There in the tunnel, blocked the north side. Eli froze, eyes wide. The flashlight beams flickered closer and closer through the vent shadows. He turned to his 2 friends. "Now," he whispered, and with one deep breath, he did something no one expected. He ran straight toward the light. The guards' voices grew louder, stopped right there. But Eli kept running. What he did next would later be told by every inmate as the craziest thing ever attempted without a single weapon. And just when the first guard raised his gun, everything went black. 6 months earlier, the same man sat quietly in his small gray cell, staring at the faded picture of his sister taped to the wall. Eli had been in Stonehill for 5 years now, serving time for a robbery he didn't commit. He was once a car mechanic from Ohio, soft-spoken, the kind of man who fixed things without charging extra. But when his boss got caught in a stolen car scheme, Eli took the fall. No one believed him, not even the lawyer assigned to his case. Stonehill wasn't just a prison. It was a world built to break people. Every noise echoed. Every day looked the same. But Eli never lost one thing, his ability to think. While others fought or gave up, he watched. He studied the guards' routes, the shift changes, the weak points in the system. And somewhere deep down, he made a quiet promise to himself. If I ever leave this place, I'll do it without hurting anyone. That promise became his obsession. Every day after breakfast, Eli worked in the laundry room. It was damp, smelly, and always full of steam, but it was also the one place in Stonehill where the guards relaxed. The prisoners had access to pipes, vents, old carts, and rusty tools. Most didn't notice, but Eli did. He noticed everything. One afternoon, he met Marcus, a huge man with scars across his knuckles and a voice deep as thunder. Marcus had tried to escape twice before and failed. He thought Eli was crazy when he whispered, "You don't need weapons to escape this place." Marcus laughed. "Man, you sound like a preacher. You think you can walk out of here with just your smile." "Not walk," Eli replied. "Think." There was also Danny, a 22-year-old kid locked up for hacking into a government system. He was smart, too smart for his own good. The click of the rifle echoed like thunder. "Freeze!" The guard yelled again, rain pounding against his helmet. The beam of the spotlight pinned Eli in place, blinding him. For a heartbeat, everything stood still. The sirens, the shouting, the storm, all melting into a tense, electric silence. Then Eli did the unthinkable. He raised his hands slowly, palms open, and stepped toward the guard. "You don't have to shoot," he said, voice calm, steady. "I'm not armed." "Stay where you are," the guard barked, finger tightening on the trigger. Eli took another step. The guard flinched. Lightning flashed, illuminating Marcus and Danny crawling out of the vent behind him. The guard swung his rifle toward them. That split-second distraction was all Eli needed. He lunged forward, not to attack, but to move. He grabbed the edge of the metal vent, swung around, and disappeared into the shadows of a half-collapsed wall just as the guard fired. The bullet sparked off the gate. "Run!" Eli shouted. The 3 bolted through the rain-soaked field, feet pounding mud, lungs burning. The alarms grew louder, searchlights slicing through the dark like blades. Marcus led the way toward the outer fence, a twisted barrier topped with razor wire and years of rust. Danny stumbled behind, clutching his side. "We're never making it," he shouted. "Yes, we are," Eli said. We didn't come this far to die in the rain. They reached the fence. Marcus threw off his shirt, wrapped it around his hands, and grabbed the wire. Sparks flew as he pulled at the loose section they'd weakened weeks earlier. Come on, Eli urged. The siren screamed closer now, guards spilling out from every direction. The rain made it hard to see, hard to think. But Eli's brain worked like a clock. Every second counted. Every mistake meant death. Marcus yanked once more, and the wire gave way, just enough for a person to squeeze through. Go, he growled. Danny crawled first, scraping his arm but not stopping. Then Marcus. And just as Eli crouched to follow, a beam of light caught him. There, north side. He dove through the gap as bullets tore through the mud beside him. He landed hard on the other side, rolling down the slope. His head hit something solid, rocks. Everything went white. When Eli opened his eyes, the world was quiet, too quiet. The rain had stopped. The sky was pale gray. He could barely move his arm. For a moment, he thought he'd died. Then he heard voices, low, urgent whispers. Hey, you're awake? Danny said, crouching beside him. His face was bruised, his clothes covered in dirt. Marcus sat a few feet away, staring toward the distant glow of the prison lights. Eli sat up slowly. His body ached, but the air felt different, fresher. Where are we? He asked. Marcus pointed toward the dark stretch of woods, about a mile east of Stonehill. We made it out, but they'll be on our trail by morning. Eli nodded, mind already spinning. Then we moved before dawn. They stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of what they'd done sinking in. For years, freedom had been a dream, a word they whispered like a secret. Now it was real. It felt too big, too wild to believe. Danny broke the silence. Eli, how did you know that tunnel would work? It's been sealed for decades. Eli smiled faintly. Because I built it. Danny blinked. What? Eli looked at the horizon. Before Stonehill was a prison, it was an old factory. My father worked on the maintenance crew when they converted it. He used to bring me here on weekends. That tunnel, he showed it to me when I was 12. Danny stared in disbelief. So this was all planned years before you were ever locked up? Eli's eyes hardened. No, but it was waiting for me. Marcus whistled low. Man, you're something else. They spent the next few hours crawling to the woods, avoiding main roads, moving like ghosts. Every sound felt like danger. Every flash of light in the distance could be a patrol. By sunrise, they reached an abandoned gas station. The place was half collapsed, its sign swinging in the wind. They slipped inside to rest. Marcus leaned against a broken wall. What now? We can't just keep running forever. Eli pulled a folded piece of paper from his shoe, a hand-drawn map. We head north. There's a freight yard in Millfield. Trains move out every dawn. If we can get on one, we'll be ghosts by midday. Danny frowned. And if we can't? Eli looked him dead in the eye. The train rocked gently as it thundered through the fog, slicing through the silence of the sleeping countryside. The red blinking light on the metal wall pulsed in rhythm with the rumble of the wheels. Steady, unblinking, mocking. For a long moment, no one spoke. Danny was the first to break the silence. Eli, that's a tracker, right? Eli didn't answer. His jaw tightened as he crawled closer to the device. The light blinked once, twice, then again. A clean, steady signal. Not something you'd find on an old freight car. Marcus shifted uneasily. Don't tell me that thing's from Stonehill. It's not, Eli said quietly. His voice carried that edge, the same calm before a storm. It's newer, smarter. Danny frowned. So who put it there? Eli stared at the blinking light, his mind racing. There was something about it that didn't fit. It wasn't government issue, not military, not even prison tech. It was personal, purpose-built. He turned the device slightly, squinting at the side panel. A tiny engraving caught the light. 3 letters etched in silver. RFX. Danny leaned closer. RFX? What's that mean? Eli's face went pale. It's not a what, he whispered. It's a who. Marcus blinked. You know M? Yeah, Eli said, voice low. RFX stands for Rexford. Jonathan Rexford. My old boss. Danny frowned. Wait, the boss? The guy who framed you? Eli nodded slowly. He's the reason I went to Stonehill. He paused, staring at the tracker. Looks like he's not done with me yet. Marcus slammed his fist against the metal wall, making the whole car rattle. You're telling me that Snake planted this? Why? Eli's eyes narrowed. Because Rexford's not just a thief. He's a ghost. He used the same freight routes to move stolen tech years ago. This train, it's one of his old smuggling lines. Danny's mouth fell open. So this whole time, you let us onto his train? I didn't know it still ran under his network, Eli said sharply. But now that I do, we've got a problem. The train shuddered as it took a curve, sparks flying from the wheels. Eli crouched down beside the tracker, studying its design. If I'm right, it's transmitting live coordinates. Someone's watching us right now. Danny's hands trembled. Can we shut it off? Eli shook his head. We can't risk it. If it goes dark suddenly, whoever's tracking it will know something's wrong. We need to outsmart them. Marcus cracked his knuckles. Outsmart who exactly? Cops? Feds? Rexford's men. Eli looked up, eyes hard as stone. All of them. They stayed silent for hours, the rhythm of the train filling the air. Danny finally dozed off, head resting on his arm. Marcus kept watch, eyes scanning the horizon through a crack in the freight door. Eli sat alone, staring into distance. Freedom had felt so close, so clean. Now it was tainted again by the shadow of the man who ruined his life. He thought back to that night 5 years ago, the garage lights flickering. Police bursting through the door, his boss pretending to be shocked as they handcuffed Eli beside stolen car parts he'd never seen before. Grant, you disappoint me, Rexford had said that night, voice smooth as oil. You always thought honesty was a weapon. Turns out it's a weakness. That voice still haunted him, and now it was back. Eli clenched his fists. Not this time. By the time dawn broke, the train had crossed into the next state. The landscape stretched wide, fields, fog, and broken fences fading into the morning mist. Danny stirred awake. Where are we now? Near Millfield Junction, Eli said, checking the horizon. That's 30 miles from the next freight yard. We get off before then. Marcus frowned. And then what? Eli glanced at the blinking light again. Then we give Rexford his tracker back. Danny blinked. You're kidding. Eli smiled faintly. No, we let it keep sending its signal, but not from us. Marcus's eyes lit up. A decoy? Exactly. Eli nodded. If they think we're still on this train, they'll follow it straight into the yard while we vanish in the other direction. Danny grinned. That's actually genius. Eli's gaze stayed sharp. It only works if we time it perfectly. We jump before the next curve. That's 5 minutes. Marcus stretched his shoulders. Guess freedom's never easy. Eli smirked. But by becoming invisible in plain sight, they stopped in a forgotten town off Route 93. Population barely 50, half of them elderly. No one here asked questions. Ethan walked into a gas station, grabbed an old payphone, and dialed a number from memory. It was a number from years ago, a legal aid hotline from his old law days. The line rang once, twice, then a familiar voice picked up, Law Office of Carter and Mayfield. Ethan smiled faintly. Tell Mayfield, he said quietly. The case he lost in 2014? It's been reopened. A pause, then a whisper on the other end. Ethan? My God, you're alive. I need you to leak a report. Ethan interrupted. Say we're heading east. Leak it to the marshals. Make it convincing. You're setting them up? Mayfield asked, breathless. Ethan's tone hardened. We didn't fight through all that to die in the desert. Just make sure they bite. He hung up before his old friend could say more. That was Ethan's brilliance. Every move was a chess play, every risk a calculation. He wasn't running from the system. He was teaching it how easily it could be fooled. That night, as darkness spread across the sky, the marshals moved their entire perimeter eastward, toward Colorado. Helicopters thundered in the opposite direction. The trio waited, watching from a small diner window, while their faces flashed on the old TV in the corner. Reports suggest the fugitives may be heading east toward Colorado Springs. Ethan smirked. Perfect. Then where are we going? Marcus asked. Ethan turned his gaze west, toward the mountains of California. Home. By the time the marshals realized the misdirection, the trio had already crossed 3 state lines. Ethan had spent weeks inside the prison studying internal logistics, supply trucks, and contractor routes. He'd memorized patterns, not walls. So when they slipped into an abandoned freight yard near Fresno, he knew exactly which containers were being shipped to a remote construction site, and which ones wouldn't be checked for days. They climbed inside a dusty shipping container marked Equipment Return. Inside it was cramped, hot, and pitch black, but for the first time, they could breathe without fear. The sound of the container locking shut from outside echoed like a sealed destiny. When the truck finally rumbled to life, Ethan leaned his head back against the cold steel and exhaled. No guns, he whispered. No blood. Just a mind. Marcus chuckled softly. You and your plans, man. You made a prison break feel like a science fair. Ethan smiled faintly. You don't break a prison with force. You break it by making it believe you're still inside. 3 days later, they rolled out into a quiet coastal town near Monterey. The ocean stretched endlessly ahead, waves crashing like applause from nature itself. They were covered in grime, hungry, but alive. Ethan looked out at the water. Freedom looked different than he imagined. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, peaceful, real. Marcus walked up beside him, staring at the horizon. So what now? We just vanish. Ethan's lips curved into a small smile. Not vanish, he said. Rebuild. Start small. Change names. Live right under their noses. Because freedom isn't about running. It's about living without needing to run again. He pulled from his pocket a folded photo. His sister, Anna, from years ago, before his arrest. She'd always believed he was innocent. She'll never know how I got here, he murmured. But maybe that's the best. Months later, somewhere in Oregon, a small repair shop opened on the edge of town. Its sign read, Silverline Restorations. The owner, a quiet man with calm eyes and steady hands, went by the name Eli Turner. Few people noticed him, and that's how he liked it. Every night before closing, Eli would turn off the lights, lock the door, and sit by the window, listening to the sound of the wind outside. He'd think of the walls he'd escaped, the lives he'd touched, and the system he'd beaten with nothing but patience, precision, and intellect. No weapons, no violence, just courage, timing, and the kind of mind no prison could contain. Freedom, he finally realized, wasn't the moment you break out. It was the moment you stop being afraid to live.